This is the morning of the 14th of January, 2026. Clip on the WLT report. Birth certificate. Barack Hussein Obama's real father revealed. Now, I don't know, folks, if you've been tuning into me over the past, 13 and a half years, I've told you more than once who his real father is. Frank Marshal Davis. He was screwing Ann Dunham. That's this guy's mother. And I'm going to scroll down to the link, which plays for 4.5 minutes. I've already gotten rid of the ads, but you have to read the article to its entirety. But listen to this.
Let me walk through. Here's since you have some nice research on the screen, we can follow along with this. Here's leftism is the real American tradition. America is and always has been a leftist country. I know that this is very difficult for conservatives to accept. It is unfortunately true. So, for example, let's consider Barack Obama. We're going to trace Barack Obama's ideas and origins back. So, who is Barack Obama's mentor? Well, that's a little bit disputed.
You've hit a couple names.
Yes, but you might think of Bill Ayers.
Sure.
And I think that's a very legitimate connection. They were certainly close, arguably before it was said that they were close.
I would have thought about Frank Marshall Davis.
That's probably his dad actually, who's also, they look like. If you basically take Frank Marshall Davis and Stanley N. Dunham's face and morph them together, it looks like Barack Obama. Mm-hmm. This is another thing. Let's go full birther for a moment. Can we go full birther?
Sure, yeah.
Obviously, he was not born in Kenya. That's ridiculous. That would have never happened at this time. What I believe happened was that basically, Stanley Dunham's Dunham is also a communist. His black communist pornographer friend knocks up his teenage daughter. And the response is, and this was kind of a normal thing for 1960, the response is, let's find an African exchange student who can pretend to be the real father. Because actually my black communist pornographer friend knocked up my daughter is not acceptable in any way, shape, or form in 1960. Is
that what you're saying happened?
I'm pretty sure what happened. And that explains it explains the complete lack of a relationship between Barack Obama Sr. and Stanley N. Dunham. It explains Barack Obama's relationship with the guy he calls Pop. Mm-hmm. It explains a zillion things. And it's actually kind of banal. What's actually not banal is that I think they got communists working in the state government in Hawaii to kind of forge the documentation a little bit, which is why you had that whole foo-for-all with the birth certificate, which, by the way, we still have not seen.
Which, by the way, I want to tell you a crazy story.
Yeah.
My graphic designer in my company, I was in Woodland Hills, California. You know Woodland Hills, California. Mm-hmm. You may know Woodland Hills. Die-hard Obama guy.
Yeah.
Armenian guy, grew up in Venezuela, liberal family, so he's a supporter of it. Remember the day the White House dropped the birth certificate on their website?
Mm-hmm. I do.
He calls me. He says, "Can you come into my office?" I said, "What's up?" He says, "This is not a birth certificate." I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "Pat, let me show you." He gets on there. He says, "This is all layered."
Yeah.
So he himself, who's a pro-Obama guy,
they left the layers in the file.
They left the layers in the file,
right? And the thing is, actually, Barack Obama is perfectly eligible to be president under this theory, right? He was born to two American parents, Stanley N. Dunham and Frank Marshall Davis. He was born, absolutely no question, in America, probably in Seattle. And then they basically went through this ridiculous foo-for-all to get a black exchange student to pretend to be his father.
Instead, it was a what? It was a porn.
It was Frank Marshall Davis.
Frank Marshall Davis is Barack Obama's father.
Yeah.
Your opinion.
That's my opinion.
Who else has that position?
You'll see. It's out there on the internet. It's "Dreams from My Real Father," I think there's a video on it. It's funny because Obama was visiting when he was president. He was visiting a genomics company in California that I knew the founder of, and I was like, "Get a glass. Get a drinking glass." Get a glass, and we'll find this out. Because he doesn't look anything like Barack Obama Sr. Pull up a picture of Barack Obama Sr.
Nothing
like him.
Nothing
like him, right? And they're black. That's clearly nothing like him, right? And so like this is nobody thought at the time this boy is going to grow up to be president. People are just like, the word bastard still had an impact then, and nobody wanted this kid to grow up with the real story of how this happened, and so they came up with this bullshit, right? And like that's a sort of it's a thing like the Stanley Levison thing where you're just like, you could call it a conspiracy theory, but it's actually a pretty banal thing to do at that time. It's actually pretty normal. It would be very weird now. Nobody would do anything like that. Let me give you.
I told you, folks. You can read the rest of the article, and there's a lot to read. No doubt about it. His father is Frank Marshall Davis, and it can be proven.
I didn't know this new hair formula.
Through DNA. I'll attach the link. Look at it. Pass it along, and thanks for listening.